Barakatay Hawa, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rachakodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is In the Nick of Time. And we're going to get into that term. And pretty much this is just centered around the deliverance. Just want to share a little something with y'all, with y'all's. Just a little something, a thought I had wrote down a while back. And it made me think about the deliverance, and how we're going to be at a point where it's going to almost seem like we're going to be forsaken. But that's not the case. And this is pretty much why the Apostle Peter spoke about the trial of our faith being more precious than the fine gold, which perisheth. Yahushua went through his hour of temptation, and at the very last minute, he felt forsaken. But that wasn't the case. That's why he said, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, my power, why hast thou forsaken me? But he wasn't forsaken. Yahushua, even before he was crucified, he even said, when the Son of Man comes back to the earth, will he find faith on the earth? And the answer to that is yes, he will, but it's going to be scarce, and it's going to seem almost like a hopeless thing, but it's going to manifest in a way where this is why it says that the remnant were affrighted, but yet gave glory to the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai in so many words. Because it's going to be that way, And the closer we get and the harder things get, you start to see it also, because you got to remember, this is the last and final trial before the kingdom of heaven. The time of Jacob's trouble, this is going to be the last and final trial. And this is going to be the last step of the purging process, And like I said, I wrote this a while back. Please don't judge me. I just want to, read it because, it brought that to mind, how we're going to barely make it out of here. So it goes like this. It says, hope you listen to every letter spoken. To those that are awoken, this is your ticket to be saved. Don't forget your token, or you'll be shattered, broken out in an open ocean, not one of water, but of fire from the grand explosion. And when the fire is scorching, that be the end of times. He's punctual, don't worry, he's always on time. And pretty much that's what brought about the idea for this lesson, because it's like, wow, it's like just at the moment where everything is falling apart and the destruction is coming and everything is, seeming hopeless, is like just at that moment, the very last possible moment, the Lord is going to come, and that's why the name of the lesson is called In the Nick of Time. It says only just in time. So in other words, there's no room for mistakes. If you're doing something in the nick of time, you did it at the very last possible moment. If you would have waited a nanosecond prior to that, it would have been over and finished. Then another one that came to mind is called by the skin of one's teeth, by a very narrow margin, barely. All right, and I thought about the precept that the young elder just put up, 1 Peter 4, and Lord's will we're going to get into it. But as I was looking up the word scarcely, I ran across this precept in Acts 27, and I remember this because this is very heavy. This is an actual event that took place, but it's pretty much centered around a deliverance from a very harsh conditions. You know, and this was the Apostle Paul when he was on his way to Rome. You know, and, you know, those seas are very terrible. That's why the Lord has to, you know, be with an individual in order to hold back the destruction, you know, the destructive storms of the oceans and the water currents and all of that, in order to be able to be delivered. So let's read it. We're going to jump around a little bit, but it says Acts 27:1. And when it was determined that we should sail into Italy, they delivered Paul and certain other prisoners unto one named Julius, a centurion of Augustus' band. So this could have been a Jake, you know, named Julius, because it just says a centurion of the Augustus band, just like Cornelius was a centurion of the Italian band, not the Italian stallion. It says, and entering into a ship of Adramyttium, we launched, meaning to sail by the coast of Asia. One as Aristarchus, a Macedonian of Thessalonica, being with us, and the next day we touched at Sidon, and Julius courteously Julius courteously entreated Paul and gave him liberty to go unto his friends to refresh himself. Right, so this centurion allowed the Apostle Paul, who was a prisoner, to go free, you know, for that period of time, so he could refresh himself, you know, eat, you know, bathe, or whatever the case may be. It says, and when he had launched from thence, we sailed into Cyprus, because the winds were contrary, right? They were going against the ship. And when we had sailed over the sea of Cilicia and Pamphylia, we came to Myra, a city of Lycia. And there the centurion found a ship of Alexandria sailing into Italy, and he put us therein, because this was the mission, to get to Italy, because remember, the Apostle Paul appealed to Caesar. And when we had sailed slowly many days, and what scarce were come over against Cnidus, if that's the way you pronounce it, or Nidus, the wind not suffering us, we sailed under Crete over against Salmon. And pretty much what you have to understand is that they were sailing, they were trying to go past this place, or maybe land on this place, Cnidus or Nidus, but it says the wind didn't suffer them, so they had to reroute. So it was a scarcity, so they almost made it to this place, but the wind was so tragic that it rerouted them. Okay, so just think of that in a scenario of, you know, being delivered, but just barely making it. You know, in this case, they didn't make it there to this particular place, but just keep in mind, you know, that this is the conditions that they're in. They're in a bad condition. This is around the time of like some real stormy weather in the Mediterranean Sea, and these different seas, you know, around these different islands, you know, in the Mediterranean Sea, right? So as we jump down to you can read the whole thing, jump down to the 20th verse. It says, and when neither sun nor stars in many days appeared, and no small tempest lay on us, because the tempest and the storms were heavy. The angels were very active back then. They were very aggressive, and they are very aggressive. Salakia. It says, all hope that we should be what? Saved was taken away. So they were in despair, you know, because it seemed hopeless. It says, but after long abstinence, because what they did was they went on a fast. They were on a fast. Paul stood forth in the midst of them and said, sirs, you should have hearkened unto me. Yeah, because he told them, look, let's stay here at this place, because, you know, it's the weather is really bad, you know, and I think we should stay here. But it was winter time, and the place where they were at was not pretty much set up to stay for a comfortable winter. You know, nevertheless, Paul told them, look, we shouldn't leave here. But Julius, you know, the Sambo, he didn't listen to the advice of Paul. He listened to the captain more, because he believed the captain more, and not have loosed from Crete, and to have gained this harm and loss. So you got to remember, you got to put yourself there. Being in a ship, it being wintertime, the tempest coming and hit. I mean, just every imaginable. Just think of the movie. What was the name of that movie? Perfect Storm, with Mark Wahlberg and George Clooney. I believe George Clooney was in it. And the shit that they were going through, in that storm, and you looking for anything you can grasp onto for hope as an anchor. And now I exhort you to be of good cheer, for there shall be no loss of any man's life among you, but of the ship. For there stood by me this night the angel of the Most High, whose I am and whom I serve. This was his guardian angel, which we all have. We all have guardian angels around us, saying, "Fear not, Paul, thou must be brought before Caesar." So the Apostle Paul was already convicted in his mind that ain't nothing going to happen to us. The angel assured him, right? And lo, the Most High hath given thee all the men that shall be that sail with thee. So not only was the Apostle Paul's life spared, but their life was also spared. And remember, this is the Apostle Paul on his way to Italy to appear before the Caesar that he appealed to, and this is the same Caesar that put him to death. But the point is that he had to go there and give this testimony. So the Lord made sure that passage there was safe, even though it was hard and rough. All right? But don't worry, he's punctual. He's always on time. It says, "Wherefore, sirs, be of good cheer, for I believe the Most High that it shall be even as it was told me. Howbeit, we must be cast upon a certain island," right? Because first, before they make it, the angel revealed to them that they were going to be pretty much shipwrecked on a particular island. And when you read the next chapter, it tells you what that island was. But when the 14th night was come, as we were driven up and down in Adria, which is the Adriatic Sea, about midnight, the shipmen deemed that they drew near to some country. Right, so because you had navigation skills, and there were certain ways to find out how far you were from, if you were close to land and how far you were from land. Because remember, when things were invisible, you had other methods of navigating the ship, right? So it says, and sounded and found it 20 fathoms. So when they sounded this particular alarm or this particular thing to find out how far they were from land, because they perceived that they were getting close to land, when it sounded and the sound came back to them, they said it's 20 fathoms. It says, and when they had gone a little further, they sounded again and found it 15 fathoms. So they're getting closer to this land, not further. Then fearing lest we should have fallen upon rocks, because remember, when you get too close to shore, you have to know as a captain or a navigator, you have to know, okay, we have to be at least so many feet away from the water before we start running into these stones and jagged, rocks that are sticking up. So we have to stop right here, drop anchor here, otherwise the ship is going to be destroyed. It says, they cast 4 anchors out of the stern and wished for the day. And as the shipmen were about to flee out of the ship, when they had let down the boat into the sea, under color as though they would have cast anchor out of the foreship, Paul said to the centurion and to the soldiers, listen good, except these abide in the ship, you cannot be saved. So think of it this way, as the ship being the trials and tribulations we're going through. Remember how I spoke about, the winds came and the rains came down upon it and blew upon that house. It either stood or it fell. So unless you abide in this tempestuous situation, which this is dealing with a physical thing that happened, but we're looking at it in a spiritual sense, you cannot be saved. Because remember, in Acts 14, we're going to come back to this. It says, Acts 14:22, it says, confirming the souls of the disciples and exhorting them to continue in the faith Why? Because things will get hard. Why do you think the Apostle Paul was so free with giving out his testimonies of the conditions that he was going through, the hardships that he was going through, to encourage those brothers, and sisters, that when things get hard, remember I told you that they were going to get hard. You were warned. You were equipped mentally. So at least when it comes, you can mentally prepare for what's coming. And this is all that Great Millstone has been doing through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, speaking about how things are going to get hard. Now we're being accused of saying that we're just going to waltz in the kingdom. We're not warning Jake out there to get themselves ready, And it's terrible to watch, but at the same time, it's necessary to watch, because this is what the prophets have to go through, will go through, and have to go through. Like Elder Apostle Gabar always says, this is a thankless job. It's like, here it is. Well, the scriptures speak about the poor old man that saved the city by his wisdom, and after he saved the city, they totally forgot about him. Like as if they saved themselves. And this is pretty much, we're in the poor old man state. We're telling Jake things that is revealed to us by the Spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai to save their souls. But yet now that it's approaching closer and closer, those that have been lollygagging, bullshitting, playing around, now they're acting as if they've been telling you these things the whole time. And we've been the slackers. That's how they painting the picture. But those out there that are in the know, that have been watching, they know different. And Yahweh Bashem Yahushai knows different. The angels know different because they've been watching. See? So there's been a silent recording of this going on in the spirit. So the Lord knows who's been naughty and who's been nice. Salakia, I saw an opening and that dove just came right flying out. Salakia. So it says, and that we must through much tribulation enter into the kingdom of the Most High. So unless we abide in that straight gate, we can't be saved. This is why Yahushua said, because you have kept the word of my patience. The word patience means to suffer. I also will keep you from the hour of temptation. There's an even trade. You catch hell, you go through the hell, you accept the hell, you stay in the hell. Eventually there's deliverance coming. But if it gets too hot, ow, 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 and you jump out of the frying pan, then there's no deliverance. Right? So going back, Paul said to the centurion, to the soldiers, except these abide in the ship, you cannot be saved. And this is heavy because, to be totally honest with you, brothers, I wasn't thinking of all of this while the Spirit had me put the lesson together. But as as the Spirit is guiding me to bring out this lesson, all of these thoughts are coming into my mind, which is the Spirit. Except these abide in the ship, you cannot be saved. Then the soldier cut off the ropes of the boat and let her fall off because the day was approaching. Now, the point is, they took bread, they ate, Apostle Paul gave thanks, prayed on it, gave them bread, they ate. There was, there was 276 men on this ship. Now, jumping out to the 42nd verse, and you can read the whole chapter. And the soldiers' counsel was to kill the prisoners. Why? Because what happened was the ship, as it started getting closer, it got jammed in a position, in a certain spot, and the tempest was so fierce that it ripped the back half of the ship out. So the soldiers were like, you know what? Now let's kill all these mother effers because they're gonna try to swim out and escape. Right? Least any of them should swim out and escape. But the centurion willing to save Paul. Why? Because the Spirit of the Lord was upon him. This was Julius. This proves he had to be a Jake. It was upon him to say no, because he was in charge of them. If they had been in charge, they would have probably killed everybody. But the Spirit got on him to say no. Willing to save Paul, kept them from their purpose. Right, because they didn't want anybody to escape. And commanded that they which could swim should cast themselves first into the sea and get to land. And the rest, some on boards and some on broken pieces of the ship. And so it came to pass that they escaped all safe to land. You see? Because they listened to Paul, they remained in the ship, they remained in that harsh condition, no matter how hard it got, even to the point where the ship got shattered, and they were saved. All right? But what happened? They barely made it alive out of there in the nick of time. Only just in time. Don't worry. He's punctual. He's always on time. All right? So now another scripture that came to mind was in the book of Psalms. But before I read that, let's read Psalms 124:7. Our soul is escaped as a bird out of the snare of the fowlers. What is a fowler? A fowler is a bird catcher. So our soul, meaning we will escape out of this whole situation. Lord's will we be the elect. Just like a bird that's trapped inside of the snare, it got caught in the trap. But something happened to that trap. That somehow maybe a tree branch or a bark or another wild animal running by knocked it over, that the trap was broken and the bird was able to escape, barely escape, being already in the shit. The shit. He was able to escape out of the shit. So you could understand. So that's how it's going to be. Just at the moment where it seems like all hope is lost, somehow, some way, the Lord's going to come. So don't worry. He's punctual. He's always on time. And it's going to be just like that, by the skin of our teeth. So don't expect it to get any easier, But always know that with the temptation, the Lord is going to make a way for us to escape somehow, some way. So 1 Peter 4:17, it says, for the time has come that judgment must begin at the house of the Most High, because it's going to begin with those that know that they're Israelites, especially in leadership positions. You go back to Ezekiel, the 9th chapter, when the Lord told the angel to put a mark upon the foreheads of them that sigh and that cry, those were the elect. Then he said, the rest, slay utterly in mine hearing. Old, young, both maids, little women, and children. And then what did it say? It said he began at the ancient men of the house. So he began to get busy upon the old heads. You see? On down. You guys, some of you guys have that delusions of grandeur of wanting to be in these top positions. The top positions are the ones that are in the most danger, of the judgment of the Lord, of what's coming down the pike. You see? Which shows you that a lot of these guys don't know what the hell they're involved in. The brother said the word fathom literally means outstretched arm. Right, like I guess they like the wingspan they call it. So it says, and if it first begin at us, what shall the end be of them that obey not the gospel of the Most High? And if the righteous scarcely be saved in the nick of time by the skin of our teeth, where shall the ungodly and the sinner appear? And when we look up this word scarcely, goes to the Greek word malice and mogis, right? It says with difficulty, hardly, not easily. An example, scarcely, very rarely. So it's going to be so close that a nanosecond will be too long, too late. But this is how the Most High, Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, operates. At the point of hopelessness, somehow, some way, something happens to where it brings back that hope. Somehow, some way. It's going to happen. Somehow, some way, it's going to happen. How? We don't know. That's in the hands of the Lord, whatever he deems for each individual of the elect. But it's going to be there. Don't worry. He's punctual. He's always on time. All right. So let's go from there. Let's go to Psalms 91. I'm going to read this point here and jump around because this is a bad chapter. Psalms 91:7. It says, 1,000 shall fall at thy side and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. So just picture the chariots above, the big chariot above, and then the other chariots fucking Esau up, the missiles flying, about to do damage, and the elect being in the what Esau calls tractor beam of the chariot, starting to elevate, going up, and people dying everywhere, and the elect seeing that and just barely escaping by the skin of their teeth in the nick of time this great judgment that the Lord is going to bring upon the earth. It's going to be something. That's why Yahweh Shai said, when the Son of Man returns, shall he find faith on the earth. Because especially in that day, faith is going to be, a very rare thing to find. And we hope that the Lord give us the spirit, to have that great faith that our Lord Yahweh Shai had, that the men of the Lord had, Because, man, it's gonna be bad. It's going to be bad, man. So it goes on to say, only with thine eyes shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked. So it's not going to come near the elect, but they're going to see it. They're going to see it. It says, because thou hast made the Lord, all caps, Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushai, which is my refuge, even the Most High, thy habitation. Meaning the things that are pleasing unto the Lord. Serve the Lord thy power with all thy heart, mind, and soul. It says, there shall no evil befall thee, neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling. Because it says, at destruction and famine thou shalt laugh. So we have to ask ourselves, what type of mindset is the Lord going to give us to be able to look at destruction and at famine and still be able to laugh and not be in the mindset of horror that's going to be taking these people. Remember, there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So the Lord's going to put a hell of a spirit on us. Lord's will we be the elect. So, man, it's going to be something. You have to meditate and think about these things. So it says, for he shall give his angels charge over thee to keep thee in all thy ways. Yeah, because the angel of the Lord encamp round about the elect. Because the angels are the ministers of the Lord. And they minister to the elect. This is why brothers are able to do lessons. Because as you've heard Elder Apostle Gabar mention many times, that you have the Most High Yahweh, Yahweh Shai, and the Holy Spirit are the angels, which is a conglomeration. It's the Most High Yahweh Shai, the angels, given that understanding to that individual or individuals to speak his words, to give the sense, to break it down so that others that are watching can see. And if they're part of the elect, hear and understand, accept, and get involved. So it's a synergy. There's this energy that's working, to get the message out. Because before the Lord destroys this place, he's given a message out that he's going to destroy this place. And how he's going to destroy it. And like as the days of Noah, those that believed went with Noah, and the ones that didn't believe were left out. And it wasn't until the very last moment when the Lord himself closed the ark door, that the rain started coming down, and the people, oh my God, oh Noah, come on, let us in. Noah, Pathak Dalath, open the door. You know? And then all of a sudden, they were gone. You know, so Noah and his family represented the elect back then. You know, so it's the same thing now. It says, they shall bear thee up in their hands, lest thou dash thy foot against a stone. A stone, yeah. Because you're going to have the angels of Yahushai, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, they're going to go around the earth and gather the elect from the earth. Now, that one chariot that Yahushai is coming in, it could just be the 144,000. It could be the 1/3 from America, including the 144,000 from around the world. You know, we don't know it. You know, we have to see it, but we know that there's going to be other angels, other chariots that's going to be gathering the elect from the four corners of the earth. You know, or it could just be all the elect, you know, gathered and brought to that big chariot, or all gathered into that big chariot. We know it remains to be seen. But we know there's one major chariot that Yahushua is coming in, that, you know, it had to be the 144,000 and, you know, the 1/3 of America in there, you know, if not the whole of all, you know, of all the elected nation of Israel around the world. And we'll see. It says, thou shalt tread upon the lion and adder, the young lion and the dragon shalt thou trample under feet, because he hath set his love upon me. Therefore will I deliver him. See? In order for us to be delivered, we have to be in a position of danger and difficulty to be delivered. Let's go real quick to Matthew 7:13. Enter ye in at the straight gate. Straight, S-T-R-A-I-T, means a position of difficulty. For wide is the gate and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat. Right. And that's why the Lord slices it up like he does. He has all these different dogmas and doctrines and religions out there sifting, you know, the Israelites. So if they wake up to some type of consciousness of them, their people and all that, if the Lord don't want them, there are so many avenues that they'll go down not to get to the truth, because the truth is very precious. That road is very narrow, very slim, you know. So it says, because straight is the gate and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. And even in the different parables that we read that Yahushua brought out, you know, you have those that come in, many are called, few chosen. You have many that come in, you know, some endure to the end, some endure for a while, some never really get into it. They, for that moment, they're like, and then, ooh, you know. So it all depends, you know, on the individual, whether they're silver or gold or precious stone, or whether they're wood, hay, stubble, you know. All right, so going back to Psalm 91:14, because he has set his love upon me, therefore will I deliver him. I will set him what? On high. That's why in Revelation 11 it says, come up hither. Because that's where salvation lies. Remember, the whole earth is going to be rocking to and fro. So the salvation is predicated for the elect and being in those chariots up high in the outer atmosphere of the earth. Because he have what? Known my name. And that's very important. When you have people still playing around, tiptoeing, you know, with the Lord's name, it ain't going to be nice, man. He shall call upon me and I will answer him. Why? Because this is the way it's set up. Remember, King Solomon said, if they find themselves in a jam, if they, if the enemy comes to fight against them and is kicking them in the ass, and I'm just paraphrasing, if there's a lack of rain or food or whatever the case is, if they turn to this house and confess thy name, then hear thou in heaven, and and grant their petition. In so many words. So it says, I will be with him in trouble. Jacob's trouble, but that's gay though. Remember, that's gay compared to according to the ISUPK. The time of Jacob's trouble is gay. Don't be afraid to take the jab, because the time of Jacob's trouble is gay. I will be with him in trouble. That's what they said. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. Why? Because he hath known my name and greatly, stood stiffly for the name of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai and for the truth, the gospel. With long life will I satisfy him and show him my salvation. Yeah. And it's going to be a very narrow window, very tight. Now, building on that word scarce, I found this to be very, very heavy. I can't think of another word. And this is Genesis 27. That whole chapter is dealing with Jacob and Esau, and how Esau sold his birthright to Jacob, and how Jacob supplanted Esau, right? But now check this out. Now it was already prophesied that Jacob was going to get the blessing before they were even born, right? But check this out. Genesis 27:30. And it came to pass, as soon as Isaac had made an end of blessing Jacob. Remember, Jacob had to, his mother cooked the goat, which Isaac wanted venison. But it just shows you how good women cooked back then, which he couldn't discern the difference between goat and deer meat, right? So then he had to put on, she had to put goat's hair on him, on his arms, on his neck, right? So that his father, even though the voice was Jacob's voice, because it was Jacob, he had on Esau's clothes, and his mother put the skin on him to make it seem like his arms were hairy. And then when his father hugged him, he smelled, the forest. He said, yeah, this is my son Esau, because the smell of the wilderness or something like that was upon him, right? So it says, and it came to pass, as soon as Isaac had made an end of blessing Jacob, and Jacob was yet scarce gone out of the presence of Isaac. So he got that blessing by the skin of his teeth, So he was scarcely gone out of the presence of Isaac, his father, that Esau, his brother, came in from his hunting. So Esau missed his window of opportunity by a very small margin. Had he came back a nanosecond earlier, before Jacob had finished that blessing, he could have stopped it. But it was already set up that way in the spirit. So Jacob scarcely left out of the presence of the Lord, out of the presence of Isaac with the blessing. So I thought that was very, very interesting. Job 27:19. This is dealing with the rich man, Esau. The rich man shall lie down, but he shall not be gathered. He openeth his eyes, and he is not. Terrors take hold on him as waters. A tempest stealeth him away in the night. The east wind carrieth him away. And he departeth as a storm, and as a storm hurleth him out of his place, because they're going to be hurled out of their place. For the Most High shall cast upon him and not spare. He would fain flee out of his hands. So it's going to be suddenly, quickly. So this judgment that's coming is going to be a quick destruction, a sudden destruction upon Esau, and a sudden deliverance upon Israel. And I looked up the word feign, right? And it goes to the Hebrew word barach, bara and cha. Not barak, barakah, barak, bless, or barak with a qua, lightning, but barach with a cha. to go through, flee, run away, chase, drive away, put to flight, reach, shoot, let's see, to hasten, come quickly, right? Flee suddenly. All right, so the same way that the elect are going to be delivered in the nick of time, Esau is going to be destroyed suddenly at that same instance, you know? So heavy, man, heavy, man. So Romans 2:2, but we are sure that the judgment of the Most High is according to truth against them which commit such thing. And thinkest thou this, O man, that judges them which do such things and doest the same, that thou shalt escape the judgment of the Most High? And the answer to that is no. Because Esau is going to get it. The nations are going to get it. 2/3 of Israel and America are going to get it. Israelites around the world that are not part of the elect going to get it. Certain ones of them. You know, nations and Edomites around the world are going to get it. No one is escaping. No one. And it's going to be done in the nick of time. Only just in time. So don't worry. He's punctual. He's always on time. So with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. To the next time I say, Shalom.